Well, welcome to the third episode in our trip of Scranton and Wilkes-Barre, and we are in St. Stephen's Episcopal Church in Wilkes-Barre, and behind us is a massive organ, and the organist for this organ is Mark Laubach, and he's going to give us a tour of the organ as well as some of the music for this organ. Thank you so much for having us here today.
You're welcome, Stephen.
So tell us a little bit about the history of the organ for the church and how it's become this.
Well, the original instrument was a 1905 Austin, and I'm told it was a grand instrument. I've seen the specification for it, but very soon after that, it was rebuilt by Austin again with a new console, I believe. And at that time, the console was up in the sanctuary area of the church and was not movable. But then in 1954 was the next major rebuild by G. Donald Harrison, Aeolian-Skinner. And a lot of things about the instrument were brought into the style of the organ reform movement, with more upper work and things speaking more clearly into the church, whereas the previous instrument was very much buried and more of a ultra-romantic kind of instrument. Then my predecessor, a man by the name of Clifford Balshaw, was tinkering with it here and there over the years because he wasn't quite satisfied with things. But then along came the flood of 1972. Hurricane Agnes came through here, and there was about 5 feet of water in this space. It would have been up to about our necks here. Fortunately, the pipe work was not badly damaged, except the things that sat lowest in the chamber. But the console was pretty well destroyed.
And that was still the console that was non-movable?
That's right, the Austin console. Things were put back together as best they could be. And then by 1984, a new Austin console was purchased. It was stop tabs, not draw knobs. But it was just before the whole system of memory levels had been common. So it was kind of out of date, even out of the start, as soon as it was had here. Now this was all before I came here, so, but when I arrived, it was that console that we were using, and the organ had developed to the point that it was very bright. My predecessor liked a very bright sound, which was typical of the 50s and 60s.
Right.
And it was as if the treble was turned all the way up and the bass was turned down. It still had a wonderful grandeur about the sound, but part of that was because of this wonderful space, this acoustic that we have. But things were falling apart, and even the 1984 console was not working completely well, so we knew that a major overhaul was necessary. And so in 2002, we had this rebuilt completely by the Berghaus Organ Company of Chicago with a new console, but about 40 ranks of the old organ were maintained. 40
from the first original one from the Austin.
From the Austin and Aeolian-Skinner. Okay. So the best of those ranks we used, and then about, I'd say, well, gosh, would be about 40, 50 new ranks were added. We did not, we were not able to add the solo division right off the start. But that did come 6 years later in 2008. That was added, and it really added a considerable amount of color to the instrument, with the tuba and the big celeste, gamba celeste, clarinet. Actually, the clarinet was from the old organ and probably is about 100 years old, that rank. New English horn, new French horn, which is wonderful, and a new doppelflute. So the solo division really added considerably to the rest of the main instrument. And it's just been a really great, successful instrument. We've had people from England come here and say they want to take it back home with them. And I said, no, you can't.
So I guess in a sense that means it's a good, well-maintained organ.
We do our best to keep it well cared for, and Stephen Emery, the Emery brothers from Quakertown, do our regular maintenance. And I know the Berghaus Company considers this one of their best works, and they are very much supportive and involved in the maintaining of it too. So we have some continual expenses, as always happens with an instrument this size. One of the things that we're going to have to deal with in time is replacing the operating system, which is presently Classic Organ Works from Canada. So we're going to have to replace all of that. Probably will be about $20,000 to $30,000 worth of work, but we're hanging on as best we can with the computer chip cards that still work. But as with anything that's high tech, it doesn't last forever.
Nope, and it could just go at any time.
Right.
Yep. So, and then that kind of falls into my next question, and that's how does the congregation accept the organ? Are they like very much for it? Do they agree to go with the flow with upgrades or with maintaining it money-wise?
The congregation is wonderfully supportive of the instrument. They realize that this instrument is one of the things that makes this church well known, along with our outreach ministry and liturgy and all of that tradition. But they're very supportive, and we're fortunate in that we have an endowment fund that does provide for maintenance and upkeep and the occasional major expense, such as what we will be facing soon. So we're very lucky in that regard. In fact, beyond just the parish, this community at large knows St. Stephen's as a center for music in the community. And we have a very supportive arts community here that's appreciative of the instrument.
And if anyone is interested in checking out some of the former versions of this organ, you can look up the pipeorgandatabase.com, and you should be able to see some of the original data from some of the original ranks and stops. As well as some of the obviously latest stops and ranks for this organ.
People can also listen to, we have a weekly radio show on our local public radio station, WVIA. It's heard every Sunday at 7 in the morning for all the early rise and shine folks, and then again at 4 p.m. for us afternoon, evening types. The replay, a half-hour show every Sunday. And sometimes it'll be just the organ, sometimes it'll be a choir or singers, a visiting group, instrumentalists, and it's called Music from St. Stephen's. And if you go to wvia.org, you can look for that and listen to it online, even if you're not within the listening area here in Northeast Pennsylvania.
And I think you even yourself recorded a CD with the organ.
I did.
And it's actually available on YouTube as well.
That's right, Mosaics in Sound. Unfortunately, though, that recording was done before the solo division was added. And one of my wishes is to be able to do another CD now that the solo division is in. Of course, those things cost money, and so we've got to make sure we have the funds to do it. But Mosaics in Sound does give a good sense of the sound of the instrument. And
on the plus side, even if that doesn't happen for the CD, for a future CD, there's now obviously music on YouTube with us now that you have with the solo division. So that includes added to that.
Yeah, we're very lucky in that this instrument does get recorded a lot.
Yes.
For about 25 years, we hosted a large course of the Royal School of Church Music in America. And there were a lot of recordings from those 25 years where we had as many as 150, 200 boys, girls, adults come from all over the country to sing daily evensong here for a week. That course was wonderful, but it was one of the many casualties of the COVID pandemic, and it hasn't come back. But we still try to do a lot of things open to the community, and our radio program is the most accessible and immediate way to hear recordings from here.
All right, now I think it's time to move on to looking at some of the pipes and just seeing how this organ works.
Very good. So, here we are at the base of the great chamber, or the facade, which is just above us. Above us and to my left are the flues in two levels. The lower level is flutes and the gamba,
Okay.
and the upper level are the principals, including the mixtures and all. And then above and to my right is the great trumpet. It's kind of hard to see from,
from there.
here.
Okay. Oh, okay. Yep. I see it.
You see that there. Right in front of us here is the pedal posauna, 16 and 32. And now the 32 12 notes are half length, but because they're pine resonators, that gives it a lot more fundamental than you would have if it were a metal half length 32. Right. It's a great sound and gives a lot of good fundamental to the bass reed sound. There to the left is the relay board. Now those are the computer chip cards that are gradually wearing out over time.
Right, so that's probably has to be replaced at some point.
Yeah, and the thing is that they're no longer making that kind of card. So we did have one that they managed to repair that they just sent us from the company in Canada. But once that goes, we're going to be looking at replacing the whole operating mechanism.
And you said somewhere around 20, 30 grand?
Yep, 20 to 30,000, yes.
Yeah.
But the good news is, as I mentioned, we do have an endowment fund that was left specifically supporting the organ and the music program, which could conceivably cover that. So hopefully that won't be a major problem to deal with when the time comes. But of course, we'd much rather spend the money on other things, but you got to do what you got to do to keep the organ sounding. So here you see the two enclosed divisions. The lower of the two divisions is the swell, and directly above it is the choir.
Okay.
So there are two sets of swell shades for the swell,
and choirs all the way up.
Choirs all the way up.
Got it.
And we'll peek into the swell in a minute, but right here to my right now is, these are many of the pipes of the open wood.
These are the original?
Original open wood from the old organ,
wow.
Yes. And some, now these I believe are the 10 2/3 that was new, voiced to match the open wood for the resultant 32. So it's a 10 2/3. Very often resultants use the same rank for the fifth, which ends up sounding like you're playing two notes. But this 10 2/3 rank is only dedicated for the purpose of quinting the open wood to give the effect of a 32-foot pitch. And it's very effective, not only for loud ensembles, but also in quiet things.
Right. I just like, if anything, the style, just the way they look, definitely seems like they took some time to think it through.
Yes.
Yep.
And now here, I'm going to open the door to the swell division. You can see. Also, one of the things that we had added in 2018, if you can hear and see this fan system, one of the problems we had is in the summertime when we would run the air conditioning, this division, the swell and the pedal posauna rank, which sit lower than anything else in the organ chamber, would get colder than the rest of the organ and would go flat because of it. So this fan system that was put in 6 years ago takes the air and moves it throughout the whole chamber to keep a constant, consistent temperature. And that has helped enormously in keeping the instrument in tune with itself.
Right, because I think that's affecting the ranks higher up, correct?
Well,
and down or more down below, I guess.
The cool air, hot air rises and cold air drops.
Right.
So when you have the lower part of the room air conditioned, it pushes the hot air up.
Right.
And so the pipes above go sharp, and the pipes down here stay at pitch or go even a little flat sometimes. So you get a grand celeste.
Right. So it makes it a little easier to not have to try and run around trying to get up there to try and tune things, because they're always going out of pitch.
And you wouldn't want to do too much tuning under those circumstances anyway, because then when things come back to a normal temperature, then it's all out of tune again. So we try to avoid doing too much tuning when the weather is at extremes.
Right, so it's best to try to find the source and just try to fix it that way.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now, if you want to come here, Noah, you can sort of point the camera in to see the pipes of the swell division here. The pipes on the left are the reeds, the reed pipes, and they sit on electropneumatic chests, whereas the pipes on the right of the chamber are the flues, and they sit on slider chests. So we have two different kinds of actions here. And it works very well.
Is there anything original, some of the original stuff in here, I believe, right?
Yes.
It's more like a half and half, or is it more of the original versus newer?
I think actually there's probably about half and half.
Okay.
The chorus reeds of the swell, the 16-foot, 8-foot, and 4-foot trumpets, bombard, clarion, those are original from G. Donald Harrison's Aeolian-Skinner. The hautbois and the vox humana are new ranks that were copies of Aeolian-Skinner ranks. The string celeste, viol celeste, that's original G. Donald Harrison. Some of the flue work is new, and it all matches beautifully. We have a 16-foot Borden, which is at the far front end of the chamber, and that rank is probably well over 100 years old, and it's a beautiful flute, really lovely. But the swell is very much like the rest of the instrument. It's about half and half, half old, half new. The great thing is that the Berghaus folks did such a fantastic job with voicing that you really can't tell what's old and what's new.
Right.
It all matches and mixes together really well.
Yeah. smaller than I was expecting.
It's not
the
a
solo.
big space.
No.
And when I came here, the old organ had the swell in here,
Oh, okay.
which was really kind of silly because the swell was here and the grate was on the other side. And swell and grate really should be together as close as possible to each other because they are used so much together. But that created tuning issues. But this is the perfect place for the solo over here.
Yep.
And it's not as high of a ceiling as in the other chamber. But here's the gamba, the doppelflute, the gamba celeste, the English horn, the clarinet, and the French horn and the tuba. And then behind me here is the harp
That's what I thought this was. Yep, the harp.
and the chimes. These are Deegan bars, and I believe the hammer mechanism was by Moeller.
Interesting. Original chimes for the Moeller for the Austin.
I think these are the original set that we had, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very nice. Very, very nice.
Yep.
Nicely laid out.
Yep. All the bells and whistles.